*894# to get started. Powered by First Bank.
This is Smooth Breakfast.
The Smooth Breakfast presents.
All right, guys, we're in.
Stories, the news, in-depth analysis of national current affairs.
It's in the news.
Freshly pressed on Smooth 98.1.
Headlines. You first. First Bank. You first Bank.
And welcome to Freshly Pressed for Hump of the Week Wednesday. You are tuned in to Smooth 98.1, where Smooth Breakfast with Kaide Baker
and Shopper Martins
reigns all the way up until 11 a.m. Now, joining Kaide and myself in the studio, we have got two analysts that you have come to expect on a Wednesday morning. We have got Lakunle in his blue and brown checks. Good morning, Lakunle.
Good morning, Shop.
Yes, I'm making fashion commentary now. And we have got Devo Okori. Good morning.
Good morning, Lagos.
Oh my days, people, we have checks and we have
Cool.
stripes. I love it.
Cool. Who brought the bad flow?
Yeah, don't worry. That's first up on the dock. And we've got you. Now, you can watch us as we stream live up on youtube.com/smooth981FM Lagos. And you can leave your comments up on that platform as well. You can also send WhatsApp messages in to 0809440 981, and we are also up on Twitter at Smooth981FM, and use the hashtag FreshlyPressed981 to get your comments in during this conversation. Okay, so let's start off, as Devo has already signposted, to news that comes in from the Punch newspaper, but you can find in all the dailies across the land. Adulterated petrol, federal government may return fuel to suppliers, 100 million liters affected, say marketers. Now, they have said that about 100 million liters, oil marketers have said that about 100 million liters of contaminated petrol were imported into Nigeria and have been recalled by the pipeline's product marketing company. That is, we've kind of heard this news already, Devo, but something else that came up as this story went on was that senior advocates and rights activists have called on the NNPC, which is the sole importer of petrol, to compensate those who have been affected by this adulterated petrol. What say you about this?
This is one story literally I am fuming and very extremely angry about, because Nigeria, with the level of expression so what's the word, gagged, that now when things go wrong, we don't speak up in
we
time.
can't react anymore.
We don't react. And in this case, something went wrong that affected everybody, and literally we were begging or discussing speculation for us to hear from the government. This is almost how many days after this incident took place, and now the NNPC is just responding. Now, what did they say? That's about now the oil marketers estimated about 100 million. That's oil marketers, but NNPC is yet to give a figure as to what has actually come in, because I think in some places they said it was over 300 million liters that actually was affected. Now, they said that there was a distribution of fuel that contained, initially we heard it was sulfur, and then eventually we now heard it was a higher methanol content than usually specified, because methanol is used in the blending of the fuel. Now, obviously, unlike in most cases, if you don't understand what methanol is and all the jargon with that engineering, it was a visible difference in the usual clear petrol that many people used to buy.
Okay.
Because those who tested it by putting it inside normal bottles saw that it was much, much darker. Now, they've said that the distribution was isolated, and that the supply has been withdrawn, and the supplier who brought it in would be sanctioned. Now, you can see how NNPC has been careful in its reporting, and there's everything wrong in their press release, because this is coming from the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority. Now, for a government, or we want to believe that we have a government, there was no taking of responsibility in their reports. Talk us to the fact that they took time before they responded. Neither was there an apology. Now, of course, we know that the buck stops first at the petroleum ministry. And we can't start in this instance begin to argue how wrong it was for the president to take up that role because he is the petroleum minister. We like to skirt over that most times, but no, Mr. President, you are the petroleum minister. You took it onto yourself, so the buck rests at your table. I can't be calling Minister of State at this point in time. What's his name? Timmy Praise Silver. Thank you. Now, apart from that, apart from not taking responsibility, what happens to those who were affected? Because obviously, I came across it on Saturday when I was coming from Macbeth. All the gas stations were jam packed, and we heard that there was something going on. And obviously, it started. I don't know why it happened that way in Lagos, but it started from the island before it even got down to the mainland. Before it got down to the mainland, and for a country like ours, in the way we use petroleum, once there's a slight glitch in supply, there's this madness that just assumes that people at petrol stations fighting all manner of junketing, shunting of lines, everybody's trying to survive all of a sudden. That's the character of this country. Now, they said the supply gap will be breached by the weekend. So for those who are looking, when would this be addressed? By weekend, hopefully they would have addressed it successfully. However, this is where the SANs and some civil society positions were taking that NNPC must take a position on compensation for those who were affected, because those who had already bought the gas and used it for their generators had issues. Those who used it for their cars, it was liable of knocking the engines, and it just smacks of failure in governance. And while I expect the NNPC to actually take a full blown approach to how they can resolve this, well, how did it get in? How on earth did it pass all the regulatory agencies and get into the country? I mean, there's just been a complete drop in governance.
Questions that we have been asking.
Somebody's head needs to roll.
Okay.
They said they've named some names, so we'll see where this goes. We'll bring you the details in subsequent bulletins.
This also reflects on what we call our national security. So you can see that a single, squeeze on supply of petroleum products, and then the nation can grind to a halt.
Oh, wow. All right, let's move on to our next story. Stay with you with this one. On this one, it's from the Guardian newspaper. It talks about Nigeria spending 92% of the 2022 revenue on debt servicing. Now, this is according to the IMF, right? So, to put background to this, the International Monetary Fund has said the federal government could spend as much as 92.6% of its revenue on debt servicing this year. And they're saying that the debt servicing ratio is 85.5%, and the IMF's debt servicing revenue ratio to projection is higher by 90%, and forecasts are given by an independent company basically. But what are your thoughts about this?
Well, it's not really news. It's just that it's coming from the IMF. But sometimes we need to scream it louder, because when we don't talk to ourselves or hear from each other, maybe when the international bodies put it to us, we might take heed. Now, the debt to service ratio is to the revenue ratio is a ratio that most times government skirts over. Okay. They dance around it. You always hear, "Oh, debt to GDP, we're fine, we're all right," given our GDP that hovers between 350 to about 450 billion dollars. That if we're spending this amount of money, it really isn't going to affect us. Well, they're right. However, you need to look at the full picture of the fiscal policy and framework to be able to understand. Now, the IMF, that's the International Money Fund, was saying that in terms of our debt to service ratio, it's been at about 85.5%. That was as of 2020. Okay. And then 2021, Augusto projected that the forecast was above 90%. Now, what does that mean? That means for every 1 naira that the government earns from all its revenue, about 76% or about 76 kobo or 85 kobo goes to
85 kobo to every 1 naira.
Yeah, to every 1 naira goes to payment of interest on debts. And that's even the part that people also miss also. We're not even talking about the debt itself.
So wait,
we're just talking about the interest payments.
If 85% goes on interest,
85 kobo, yes.
What's left to pay?
Not even to pay. What's left to even use on your budget implementation? Now, they've also said that since 2021, 2022, that we spent about 32% thereabout of our major budget on debt interest payments. That's a major chunk. So you don't have much left. And we also have capital expenditure as well as recurrent expenditure. And that's what eats away from our budgets and makes it impossible for the government to meet up on its demand. So when you talk about budget performance, how much of the budget at the end of the day did it get to work? You're not really going to go for it because a lot of it goes to debt service payments. Now, they've also put some things in light. They said, well, the country is recovering, like most countries, from the double recessions that took place, and that it has recovered healthily from government policy. Okay, the government has been trying in terms of its policies to see how it can control inflation, from the rising oil price, which you have seen that has hovered above $60 to $70 for quite some time, and then also from international assistance, where we see the government takes loans and other countries are able to come in to help us. However, despite this help and despite the healthy growth, we've also been challenged by the rising insecurity, which they've said if it continues, it's actually going to derail this growth. And also the COVID-19 pandemic with the poor vaccination records are not helping matters at all. Yeah, they dropped a few stories of where Sanusi spoke about the how do I call it, doomsday, that the country is grinding to a halt, and that we're living on borrowed time. It's not new. We've known this for a while, but are we acting as if we know that we are living on borrowed time?
So the new budget that we have now, just in one word, because we're out of time for this story, with the new budget that we have that's been implemented now, how is this going to affect that? I mean, with this report that we're seeing now, how is this going to affect, the new budget?
But the truth is, this has to do with fiscal policy, and what that simply means is that you don't have enough money to take care of all your needs.
Okay.
So what you expect?
Are we going to borrow more money now?
We're still borrowing money.
How long can we borrow money for? And because we have already seen lenders starting to turn away, have we not?
Well, not really. Nigeria is still a place where investment is still ripe. However, the point is this: what is the framework of your budget? Are you spending more on consumption, like we're about to do with the 3 trillion requests on the National Assembly's table for subsidy, and then the electrical subsidy, and then the foreign exchange policy subsidy? Are we going to continue putting money in that fashion, or are we going to push money towards infrastructure that will create jobs, even though it will pinch us now, but in the long run, it will create the environment that will grow Nigeria further? That's the real hard decision that needs to be taken.
All right. Okay, we've got messages coming in. Let me go over to youtube.com/smooth981FM Lagos first. And Baba Femi Onogweson says, let's mirror the substandard fuel importation saga with the building collapse in Ikoyi. Who owns that land in Ikoyi? Who imported the bad fuel? What kind of country is this? He says. They're also saying all the quality control agencies, as usual, went to sleep right from procurement to delivery to final consumers. All right, and going over to WhatsApp, Shagun says, when I saw the fuel queues, I thought we were back to the bad old forgotten days of endless long fuel queues, which this government put an end to. They should compensate those whose engines were affected. Whilst Don
Chocho,
we see your message. This is a message in Joseph from Silver Estate.
Yeah, Joseph says, this is the impunity and nonchalance attitude of this government. The deafening silence since the incidents. How did such poisonous fuel enter the country? Insane society heads will roll. In the agencies, whose duty to inspect? What if this is a consumable that's been circulated and would have led to massive deaths, basically. So Joseph, thank you so much for that one.
Okay, Idowu says, shaking my head, the adulterated petrol issue is a classic reminder of Nigeria. All right. And we've got more messages that do keep coming in, so keep sending them into 0809 440 981. Now let's talk about something that we are all very well acquainted with, aren't we, Lakunle? From the Vanguard newspaper, noise pollution, Lagos bans use of sound amplifiers at motor garages and parks. This was on Tuesday when the state government placed a ban on the use of sound amplifiers, microphones, and other forms of sound systems at motor garages and parks across the state. Now, this is aimed at curtailing noise pollution as well as ensuring a noiseless, healthy environment, apparently. Do you think this is going to happen? The ban has been placed now. are we going to suddenly see a noiseless Lagos? What do you say, Luckily?
Let me start with this joke about the man who is in the train in one of the countries out of the air and has a banner across his chest. I am not shouting. I am Nigerian. So
All right.
there is hardly any one of us today. A lot of us, let me see, a significant number of us will fail a hearing test because of the noise that will be subjected to from day one.
Because there's a minimum or a maximum decibel level that
Exactly.
we should be subjected
Exactly.
to.
So you find every one of us everywhere, whether we're having a conversation, one-on-one conversation, over the phone, anywhere we are always shouting because we have suffered so much of noise abuse, noise pollution for God knows how long. Now, Lagos State government says they are banning. We've had this ban pronounced several times. We know where all those things are. I mean, this morning on my way here, as early as the time I left my house, there was one on the road on the park on where I passed who was already blasting some music this morning. We know where these things are. They have provided numbers, emails, and all that about mosques, churches who do all these things as well. People have reported. Some have said yes, they've taken action. Some have said that they've never seen them take action. But we know where the primary ones are. There's hardly any street you pass in this Lagos State where there's no form of pollution. Even in our social events, we go to social events, the decibel of the noise of the music is killing to the people who think that they are enjoying. So I think that it is time we took action. Isn't enough of pronouncements. We need to get these things done. I mean, we need to have a sane environment. If there's going to be noise, can we limit it to a section where, okay, if you want the noise, you can go there to enjoy the noise, not that the noise is spread all over the place. So in the bottom line, I hope that the ministry, the commissioner, and the Ministry of Transportation, all of them will work together and they will provide the means for us, the people, to report incidences of noise pollution, and they will take proper action when we do reports.
All right, thank you so much for that, Luckily. Real quick, let's move on to our next story. This one comes to you, It talks about LAUTECH, the school. So Oyo State government proposes new name for LAUTECH, and in their effort to change the LAUTECH at Kintola University of Technology from a technology university to a conventional university, the Oyo State government has approved a bill titled the 2022 LAUTECH Amendment Bill, which is to be forwarded to Oyo State House of Assembly.
Okay, this is the position of the state government, Oyo, who has approved this, is moving this bill and passing it to the State Assembly for adoption and passage. Now, it also includes the creation of a pension scheme for the LAUTECH staff. Now, the major issue here was that they said this name change was to reflect the broad-based academic scope outside technology, that the school wants to also include humanities, law, etc. in their curricula.
Okay.
So not just technology, and this name change would help that. Well. I mean, I have mixed feelings about this because the vision of LAUTECH was meant to become a center of producing those in the technology fields, okay, engineering, etc. However, I think that was at the time when it was almost touted to be a federal university. However, I hope that the necessary budget is being put in place because there are some economic calculations as to the kind of courses offered. Sometimes you have more admissions under humanities and law as against engineering, but it's a decision the state government needs to take, and hopefully they will let us. By the time the bill is passed, I'm sure the new name will be out, and LAUTECH Kintola University of Technology will become history.
All right.
Quickly, so for me, it's just the name change. I don't think that LAUTECH Kintola University, being a technology university, being a specialized university anyway, their School of Medical Sciences is existed for more than 10 years already.
Okay.
So right now, I think what we're just doing is just a name change. It doesn't affect
So
what already
just
subsists.
formalizing
Exactly.
what is
Yeah.
on ground. Okay, so let's take some messages before we go to our next story. Show says up on WhatsApp, Lagos. Show first of all starts off with laughter, and says Lagos has come to ban speakers again. The Lasepa GM was on the program at Smooth FM a short while ago. I called and sent yet another message about the noise experienced with the 3 churches clustered right behind me on the street. My people still had a night vigil last Saturday, and nothing has happened to them yet. Lagos can send their new ban to where the sun doesn't shine. No, thank you. What we want is for the ban to just be enforced, implemented consistently. That's what we want, not for it to disappear and be sent where the sun don't shine. Thank you. We're looking to regain, or at least keep the hearing that we have. Okay, more messages in. We see your messages, Danny K, Wale, and Ali says banning of speakers for the umpteenth time with no enforcement by the state government. Jeez. And that's all Ali has to say. Okay, very quickly, let's go over to this story in from the Premium Times. CJN replies Malani on delays of high-profile corruption cases and budgetary secrecy. So the Chief Justice of Nigeria has had some words for the Attorney General of the Federation, who about 2 weeks ago criticized the lack of transparency for the judiciary's budget. Anyway, the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Tanko Mohammed, has denied those twin accusations of delaying high-profile corruption cases and running an opaque budget, and said this. This is just one of the many things he said. He said the federal government's prosecution sector files more charges than it can prove or provide witnesses to prove, ostensibly at times for the prosecution to even fail. So he's throwing the ball right back into the AGF's courts. Luckily, what do you say about this?
Again,
Luckily, he's bopping his head over here. If you're on YouTube, you can see it.
Again, you be thief, I no be thief. You be rogue.
Really?
Right.
This morning.
Argument. That was the song that's been playing in my head since I saw the story. First off, I think it's disgrace for the Attorney General and the CJN to be having this kind of discussion in the
full public view.
Exactly. I think that it is disgraceful at that level. I think that and this is one of the reasons that you hear people say that the role of the Attorney General and the Minister or Commissioner of Justice should be separate. You see, so when you have Malami, who is a lawyer and is also a politician, and so on whose side is he in this matter? It is obvious the rot in our judicial system. You cannot put the blame on one person. The role of Attorney General and Minister of Justice is to work with the judiciary to solve the problems that are there, not to be trading blames. Okay, so just yesterday I was reading something. One individual, I can't remember the person, in tweeted that he was involved last week in a case in the Supreme Court that was first instituted in 1959. None of us in this room was born in 1959. That was for
I don't know how old you are.
Exactly for Nigeria became independent in 1960. That's a year after that case was instituted. I don't know how, but that was what the person wrote. So imagine that kind of matter. Let's assume it's true that is the case, that it was 1959 truly. So imagine that kind of case that existed for 64 years and is still on. So the problem there in the judiciary is endemic. It's beyond all these brickbats that these two individuals are doing. Let's get to the bottom of this. We know that the judges are overwhelmed by a number of cases they have to deal with. We know that the court say that they don't have enough judges to prosecute the cases, the working condition. All these things are things that can be politically solved. What is the role of the Minister of Justice in solving this problem before trading blames? What is the role of the judges in making sure that even the cases they're able to do, they dispense with justice quickly? Justice must have been seen to have been done and on time. That's what justice is. It's not just enough to pronounce guilty or not guilty.
All right. Thank you so much, Lakali, for that. Real quick, let's move on to polls and data breaches. in 2021. It's according to a report. So they're saying that, it's a report by the National Information Technology Development Agency, and they're saying that it's significantly improved from 1,230 to 1,350. But what are your thoughts about this?
Sorry, not significantly improved.
Well, yeah.
They're referring to the increase in calls regarding reporting. They also said that about 105 combined involvement notices in 2021, which was 230. Now, the DG of NITA, Kashifu Abdullahi, stressed the need for the country to address issues around the global data industry, that we cannot afford to be a carrier nation. Now, the Punch earlier reported that NITA engaged in 17 data breach investigations and issued fines up to 15 million in 2021. That sounds like a lot of gibberish, but the truth is that the world globally moves into data. Data is all this information we give out, not just about our names and our credentials, but everything you put on the World Wide Web, okay? Or information that you store on systems and computers.
Okay.
If you notice, anytime you go for any government form of identification or financial institution identification or anything that's identifying you, going to put down your information.
All your details.
Yeah. So globally, if this information is to leak or to break out from where it's specified, it's called a data breach.
Okay.
And this is where the DG is saying that Nigeria needs to work well in terms of policy and enforcement to ensure that we meet up. I think data protection here is largely, let's say, weak, and maybe it's not a thing at the moment, but it's probably where a lot of cybercrime hides itself. All right, which is why you hear a lot of our citizens getting caught for breaking into data abroad, wanting using it for nefarious activities. So hopefully NITSDA will remain on its feet to ensure that we can.
Shinji says up on WhatsApp, disgraceful or not, what Chief Justice said is very true. I know a defense lawyer who loves taking EFCC cases because he said he can't lose. Incompetent prosecution is the problem. And Henry says MIT is still MIT and they offer.
Yeah, Kasim comes in to say, well, who will arrest NURTW for noise pollution? And he has a point there. He has a big point. Okay, final story though. This one? Yes, okay, so government sensitizes Lagos residents to sexual gender-based violence. Luckily, we have just a minute, please. Could you just quickly touch on the story?
100% kudos to the Lagos State government for taking this initiative. There is need to continue to educate people about what constitutes sexual violence. We cannot live with the way these things happen in our society. We need sensitization. Prevention is always better than cure. And I hope that they will take beyond this local government where it started from, and it will get to every corner of the state, the parks, our schools. Even we'll begin to see it on our TV and hear it on our radio, so that it gets to everybody's heads that it is not the way to go. There are better ways of resolving all issues or whatever it is that leads to all this kind of sexual and domestic violence. Thank you, Lagos State, for taking this initiative.
All right, thank you so much. And Lagos, that's our show. You can find our analysts up on social media. You can find them on Twitter at Divo Okore, and also at Lakunle70. You can continue the conversation there with them. And of course,
That's
it.
Coming up, we will have our Lagos Talk special as we talk about the move from yearly rent payment to monthly rent payments. Do you think it's going to happen? We will discuss all the facets of the conversation in 10 minutes. Stick with us right here. Love music, love life, love smooth 98.1.
First Bank.